I took 25 grams of creatine every day for a month, which is 5 times the normal dose that I would take. And I tracked everything from strength, body weight, recovery, even how my focus was. This is what happened. So normal creatine dose is about 3 to 5 grams a day, but loading protocols often suggest that you take 20 to 25 grams for 5 to 7 days to sort of saturate your muscles faster and then drop back down. But I stayed on the 25 grams for the entire month. So that's 5 scoops every single day.
Okay, let's see what this looks like. Oh my god. Oh my god. Whoa. Okay. Oh, it's so gritty.
So the first few days off the bat was already pretty much a big mistake looking back now, and that was that I was taking my creatine all at once, and each time I did that, within an hour or two, I would just have a terrible headache.
It's been about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours since I've taken it, and my head is killing me. So I don't know if I'm just more dehydrated than normal or something, but my word, not good.
I just felt awful, so that's when I decided to sort of start splitting up the dose a bit. It just does not work doing it all in one go. It's hard enough anyway because it just turns into like a paste at the bottom of the glass, and you just constantly just gritting it down. I tried halving it. That's still pretty bad. So I found the best like dosing for me at the moment. I'll just do 10 grams in the morning. I'll do another 10 grams in the afternoon, and then I'll do like 5 grams before bed. So this is the afternoon one. So these scoops weigh bang on 5 after I measured. So 2 of them, give that a little whiz up, and that's so much easier to get down and none of those awful headaches. So once I did do that and I settled on a sort of 10-10-5 split, so 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, 5 just before bed in the evening, that was like problem solved. That removed a lot of the issues that I was having off the bat. So week 1 was a bit of an adjustment period really. Once I'd sorted out the dosing issue, things got better pretty quickly, and by day sort of 3 to 4 I definitely felt stronger in the gym. But that can obviously just be placebo at this point. Like reps that I think should have normally been hard felt a bit easier, and I did feel like there was just a bit more power behind some of the movements. And recovery was pretty interesting as well, because normally after like a tough session, especially if you do something like heavy legs, you'd be limping around for a day or two. But even in week 1, I did feel like the DOMs weren't hitting quite as hard. So one thing I did have to do is really ramp up my water intake, because like we all know that creatine pulls water into the muscles, but if I didn't drink enough, I would just feel dehydrated really quickly, and I would get like the dry mouth, and that slight headache would start creeping back in.
Definitely going through more of this as well. This is my 3rd bottle in this session.
And even before week 1, like the texture of creatine was already getting so old, just like drinking down that gritty paste, like for multiple servings a day, just was not fun. But by the end of week 1, I was definitely pretty curious, because the strength improvements did feel real and the recovery seemed to be better, but I didn't know if it was actually working or if I was just wanting it to work. So week 2, I think, is when things really started to feel a little bit more real. So my strength gains, they just didn't really seem to be in my head anymore. So I was hitting reps that I just did not hit the week before, and weights and sort of rep ranges that felt really heavy, they just started to feel a little bit more manageable. So things like push-ups and pull-ups, they were the 2 things that were like noticeably easier. I wasn't maxing them out every day, but when I did test myself midweek, like the numbers on those are definitely improved. And the recovery still continued to impress me. So I did like a brutal tempo run, and it absolutely destroyed my legs during the session. And I thought that that would have sort of wrecked my hips and calves for a couple of days, because normally when I do those it does. But it felt almost like by the morning after, like that burn was mostly gone, and that's just not normal for me. I do think as well that mentally I was a little bit sharper. So I was a little bit more motivated to train. I had a bit more drive to get things done. And even on days I think where I should have felt sluggish, like after a heavy weekend, I still feel like I had more energy than I normally would. There's still some downsides in week 2, so you're still having to choke down like 5 scoops of it every day. And you're just drinking water constantly.
I'm just permanently drinking these.
But the results from this week, they definitely started to make it feel like it was worth it. So week 3, I think I was probably even more bought in by this point. Strength was continuing to climb. Every session that I would do sort of felt a little bit more productive. The weights were moving well, the form felt good, and I just wasn't getting beaten up by all of the training. So I do think that my running performance improved as well, but it was more on things like intervals. The 30 to sort of 60 second sprints, they felt easier, or at least I could hold a faster pace without feeling like I was completely dying. So whether that's like creatine directly helping, or whether that's just slightly better recovery that's allowing me to train a little bit more consistently, I don't know, but it was definitely noticeable. This is also the week where I weighed myself at like the midpoint, just mostly out of curiosity, and I'd put on about 1.5 kilos at this point and didn't feel like I had any visible bloating, and my stomach felt fine, but you know, the scales, that number was definitely going up. So the only real negatives at this stage was the monotony of taking it. Like, I make it sound really bad. It wasn't too bad, but you just get so fed up with that gritty texture. And also the cost. By this point, I think I was walking down to the supermarket to pick up like my 3rd pot of creatine. You absolutely fly through it, which obviously makes sense, but maybe I need to start buying it in bulk. Even though creatine's pretty cheap, buying it each week in the like smaller amounts definitely get a little bit more expensive. So the final week, this was like the time to see where I actually ended up and test myself. Strength wise, I felt as good as I had all month really, like maybe even better. Everything was still moving well in the gym. So I tested my max push-ups and pull-ups towards the end of the week. So the push-ups had gone from 71 to 80 and the pull-ups from 18 to 20. So those feel like real improvements, because, well, they are real improvements. My squats also went from 21 reps at 100 kilos to 22 reps at 100 kilos, which is not massive and it's probably not even statistically significant, to be honest with you, but it's still a PR. So the final weigh-in on day 30, same time in the morning as day 1, showed that I'd gone from 87.5 kilos to 89.4 kilos, so just under 2 kilos gained. So obviously a lot of that is going to be water, because we know that creatine it causes water retention in the muscles. But my strength has increased as well, so hopefully there's some actual muscle in there as well. So one thing that I didn't expect from doing this was how much of an effect it seemed to have on me mentally. So my motivation to train, but also my motivation to just get deep into work was definitely stronger. You know, this time I just always wanted to train. I felt more alert when I woke up and I was just ready to get in the gym. But in terms of work as well, I just found that it was so much easier to get locked into a task and just fire it out much quicker. So again, it's hard to say if a load of that is like purely creatine or if it's just me being in a better routine, but I do think that it's interesting, and I know there are a lot of people that talk about the cognitive effects of higher doses of creatine, so I do think there's something to it. So the pros and cons, like if we break down the full month, the pros would be that my push-ups improved significantly, my pull-ups increased, you know, the recovery was noticeably better. Like, I do feel like I had less DOMs, I bounced back quicker from harder sessions. Now there's a weight gain of 1.9 kilos, which is likely water, but the strength increased too, so hopefully there is some muscle there. My mental performance improved. I was more motivated, I was sharper, sort of more driven and focused. Certain types of running felt easier as well, so I did slightly lower heart rate at the same higher paces. And no real major side effects once I'd split up the dose correctly. In terms of cons, taking 25 grams of creatine is genuinely unpleasant, but you can obviously break that up and do multiple doses. Having to remember multiple doses a day, you know, even that becomes a bit of a chore sometimes. You go through creatine so quickly. Now I know that sounds completely obvious, buying almost 6 months supply every month, and that does still get expensive. Even though creatine is so cheap, that amount is a lot to buy in one go. You need to drink loads more water constantly. You have those initial headaches when I took all the dose at once. That was a pretty bad con. So like my final thoughts, look, I had loads of benefits from this. The strength gains were real, the recovery seems better, mentally I did feel sharper. It did work, but am I going to continue using 25 grams a day? No. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure that I'd recommend it either. Just constantly feeling dehydrated doesn't feel good, and I don't think it feels particularly safe either. Your body is working hard to manage that much creatine and the water balance, I guess, that it creates, and that might get better over time, I don't know. But what I might do instead is increase my maintenance dose from 5 grams to 10 grams and just see how I get on. And hopefully by doing that I can get a lot of the benefits without the hassle and sort of constant dehydration. 25 grams still, to me, it just seems so high, and you know, that classic loading protocol of 20 to 25 grams for 5 to 7 days to like saturate you quickly and then drop back down to 5 grams or so, that still makes sense. But I do think that staying at that level for a month was just excessive. Creatine works, it's cheap, it's effective. You know, we all know it's one of the most researched supplements out there. The improvements that I saw were real. So strength, mental performance, you know, recovery, all of it. But a more normal dose will probably still get you there just fine, maybe just a little bit slower. But it is an interesting experiment, and it proved just how effective creatine is as a supplement. Anyway, if you've got any questions, drop them down below, and if you've tried like megadosing or loading creatine before, also let me know in the comments as well, and let me know how it went. Thanks for watching.